the concept of money? Well, money was invented at a certain level of complexity of the economy when it just becomes too cumbersome to barter. So if you have something that I want, let's say a computer, I want to take a computer from you and I have something you want, maybe an automobile, we could exchange them, but that would be extremely cumbersome. On the other hand, there's a simple way of exchanging, namely having a common medium of exchange, which we both accept, and using that common medium, which happens to be a couple of pieces of paper. It's a lot easier. And over the course of time, money evolved to play that role. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that, of course.
Sure.
I mean, even getting to a single currency for a particular country took a long time. Claude Levi-Strauss, a famous anthropologist, I remember once as a graduate student going to listen to a talk of his, which I thought was a joke, but I guess it wasn't, in which he argued, this is like 60 years ago, so my memory may not be exactly right. I know he wrote it up. He argued that humans have three modes of interchange. One of them is language, another is money, a third is women. He says if you look at cultures, we all have some language which is very kind of light. You know, a word doesn't weigh anything, so very fast communication with words. Money is a little bit heavier and more cumbersome, so the interaction is slower. Women in many cultures is just like once a generation. So in plenty of cultures, a woman is handed over to another family in exchange for something that's received by the donor family. And then the woman becomes maybe the slave of her mother-in-law or something like that. Well, that's communication and over generation. I can see what he's talking about. Well, nothing beyond simple truths. One thing is that Mother Nature doesn't hand your answers to you on a silver platter. You've got to work to find them. And that kind of work requires creative imagination, hard work, greatest genius, Einstein. It's not going to come easy. Integrity and a critical mind. You can't question everything, but you ought to have a slight question about everything. And sometimes that slight question is worth pursuing. Now, when you turn from the sciences to the study of human affairs, it's in a sense easier, in a sense harder. It's easier in the sense that it's much more, what can be understood is much more superficial. So in the study of history, say, or sociology, you don't get principles of even remotely the depth that you find in studying the natural sciences. On the other, from another point of view, it's harder. Mother Nature does not give the answers on a silver platter, but she doesn't set up obstacles either. In human affairs, there's plenty of obstacles set up. Doctrinal systems are putting up obstacles to understanding what's going on. Education, in many ways, is creating doctrinal frameworks which shape your thinking and impose barriers to understanding. And it's pretty systematic. A more free and just world. In fact, right now, what I hope for is a world in which my grandchildren can have a decent life, and that's not obviously going to happen. There are really serious threats that might destroy that possibility. The threat of nuclear war, for example, which is very serious. The threat of environmental catastrophe is extremely serious. In fact, there are now threats of a kind that human beings have never faced before. Right up there on the wall, you can see a picture of Bertrand Russell. He and Albert Einstein in 1955 published a very eloquent manifesto to the people of the world. And he said, people of the world have to make a choice that is stark and inevitable. Shall we give up war, or shall we destroy the species? and we don't really have many other choices. You could say the same about environmental catastrophe. Shall we decide to do something about it, or shall we create a world in which decent people wouldn't want to live? You know? Those are species-threatening choices of a kind that were never faced before, and there are plenty of others. First of all, we would like to live in a world with variation, but more fundamentally, I think we'd like to live in a world with no power systems. Yeah, I think we're moving slowly toward that. So we don't live under kings and princes. We don't have slavery. Women have some degree of rights. All of that is erosion of power systems. Not just political power like kings and princes, but also, for example, patriarchal families. Eroding their power is a step towards freedom for women, for children, for anyone who's not at the top of the power structure. And that's true in other aspects of life too. So instead of looking for one power system, which would be global tyranny, we should be looking at modes of eroding power systems so that people run their own lives. How do we get the rights we have? I mean, we have a lot of rights. Freedom of speech, for example, is protected in the United States beyond maybe any other society. It was civil and human rights to a substantial, say women's rights, are to a substantial extent protected. How did it happen? Well, look at the history. Was it a gift from above? No, it was won by struggles from below. People can struggle hard. It's often dangerous. Plenty of people die. But they ultimately win rights, which then power systems will try to take away from them, because they're always trying to erode those rights. That's the way it's been done in the past. That's the way it can be done now.